Hey everybody, it's Commander Clyde. Welcome back to another patch notes video here in SMITE. We got the Vigilant update today, and Heimdall coming to SMITE very soon once they release this to the live game. Here he is. We're not going to waste any time. Get right to the abilities. Passive here, when Heimdall gains vision of an enemy god, he gains physical power up to a maximum of 5 gods. When an enemy god would disappear from vision, including stealth, Heimdall continues to see them for 4 seconds. Heimdall's critical strikes only deal 70% bonus damage. Physical power per stack, 3%. And you see down here why he only does 70% crit damage, because he has 1.3, 1.3, 1.5 times swing time and damage on his auto attacks. If you had the full 1.5x with 100% crit damage, he would deal up into quadruple digits of damage, and that's obviously very overpowered. So, and then 7.5 foot AoE for the first 2 hits, with the cleave hitting for 33% damage. Then piercing sight. Heimdall throws his sword. I forgot how to say this. Hofuth, I think. Into the air. It shines with brilliant light and reveals enemies within 120 feet. Heimdall can refire this ability to call the sword down, causing it to fly to the target location and damage enemies. Damage 70 up to 310 plus 105%. That's a lot. And then there's your mana cost and cooldown. Now what's fun about this is it'll stay in the air for 10 seconds. And in that amount of time you can call it down wherever you want. Wherever your target location is. There is no range limit to where he can call this down. So you can be on the complete opposite end of the map, and it will go where you tell it. Unless you don't fire it in the 10 seconds, which means it'll just despawn. Do nothing. And the Heimdallr horn. Heimdall blows the Heimdallr horn for 2 seconds, causing enemies in front of him to lose movement and attack speed while taking damage every 0.5 seconds. While blowing this horn, Heimdall is immune to knockups and gains bonus protections. When Heimdall ends the cast, either through canceling it himself or after 2 seconds, he raises the Heimdallr horn for a final blast. This blast damages enemies and knocks them away from Heimdall. Damage per tick is 8 up to 40 plus 35% in a cone. Then knockback damage is 50 up to 210 plus 60%. And that's within a small radius in front of you or around you. So you have to be in basically melee range to get the knockback. 16 at rank 1 up to 40 protections. At rank 5, slow is 15 up to 25%, slow duration 1.5 seconds. There's your cost and cooldown. This is a good self-peel and also engagement ability if you want to be aggressive. So we really like that. This is a hunter that's built to be aggressive and in your face, which is pretty new to the game. There's not really been a hunter like that. And me being the soul laner, I'm a fan, because it's a hunter that might actually have viable use in the soul lane. Wait, the Bifrost. This is the mythical bridge that links all of the 9 realms in Norse mythology. Only Heimdall and those that have his permission can use it. In mythology, if you use it without his permission, he'll hunt you down and kill you. Yep. That's it. Anyway, the Bifrost. Heimdall manifests a fragment of the Bifrost at a target location. When 2 fragments are placed, they become linked, allowing Heimdallr to traverse the Bifrost. The greater the distance between the fragments, the longer it takes to begin traversing, and the longer it takes for it to be usable again. If Heimdall places a 3rd fragment down, the oldest fragment vanishes. Enemies that walk between 2 fragments are revealed to Heimdall. So, in typical fashion, of what you might expect if you want to place this between the base and your lane. It's going to take longer to use it, and it's also going to be a lot longer amount of time before you can use the teleport again. It's 85 to 700 feet, which is over an entire map length, so at least I think it is. Yeah, it's supposed to be, because they said there's not a range limit, but I guess that means there's just not a map big enough that his range can't get across the whole thing. Scale is 0.5 seconds to 3.5 seconds. Cooldown scale 14 seconds to 10 down to 9. I don't quite know what that's communicating right here. But the main thing to note, if you put it longer away, it takes longer for it to actually begin teleporting, and then you have to wait longer to use it. And of course, once you use the ability, you will probably be able to see that as a timer somewhere. It's either a passive timer or actually on the ability. This can also be used as a short-range escape. Strategy you can use is put the first one down and then hold the second fragment until you need an escape, and you throw it down, and then you can get back to your tower or wherever you put it quickly. Just don't get too far away, or you could find yourself in a situation where you get knocked out of it before it actually teleports. Not good. And then this is a fun ability here. This is the ultimate. Through the realms, Heimdall charges forward, acts ready. If Heimdall hits an enemy god, he stuns them before unleashing a devastating swing of his axe, launching his target into the sky. A Bifrost portal appears, and Heimdall sends the launched foe through the realms of Muspelheim and Niflheim before returning them back to the battleground at a random location in front of him. Muspelheim burns the enemy every 0.5 seconds for 1.5 seconds, while Niflheim slows the enemy for 2.5 seconds. So backstory, these are 2 of the 9 realms in Norse mythology that are connected by the Bifrost. Of course, Heimdall, using his powers, can send his opponents flying through them. Very fun. Muspelheim is basically, it's very hot, there's lava everywhere, and then Niflheim is the direct opposite. The place is completely frozen. Hit damage is 150 up to 510 plus 110%. Wait a minute. This isn't good. So a typical build, just hitting somebody with it by itself is gonna do like at least 750 damage base late game, and then you get hit 25 up to 65 plus 15%, and then while hit damage, that's when he's passing through the realm. If you're hit by the ult, you'll know what's happening once you see it. It's 35 up to 195 damage. That's a one hit, by the way. Plus 45%, and if I'm slow, 25%. And you're traveling through the realms for 4 seconds. It's a really great ability. It's got its own unique 3D environment when you're banished through the realms, so they are doing things that they have never done before with this god, and that's cool. Hey, here's the recolor, Night Watch. It's a good recolor. Here are all the skins. That's... Can he not have his mouth open? That's scary. That's that god. It honestly just looks like Discordia with different hair. We got the new Yorm skin, Alquan, Tsunami, Vulcan. And then Umoja skin, and these guys down here. Well, I mean, whatever. I don't care about skins. Skipping that. There's your Ridley schedule, everybody. If you want that, general bug fixes. Look at these conquests. Fix an issue where the totem's coup would appear in its active state to some players, even though it was already captured and not attackable. Dual Bull Demon King now stats now scales intended. Cursed Hawk upgrade. This now only triggers its additional damage debuff on enemies healing health through abilities. Not item heals, relics heals, or mana. So you only get the debuff if they heal. Wait a minute. That's not cool. Man, I don't like that. Because that was a cool way for Guardians to cheese for extra damage. Although, I mean, that's a small thing. It's not a practical use of the item, honestly. At least you've still got Horrific, which is not quite the same thing, but it at least reduces the damage your enemy does. A UI Odyssey quest that required players to play one game of adventure now works with domination. It's Horus fixed an issue where Horus would not get to use his follow-up ranged attack on an ability if he was CC'd at a certain time. He's intended to always gain this ranged attack after firing this ability. This god that we can't say the name, Isis now uses her updated card art on her mini-map icon and other small UI icons. Did I say it? Whatever. Tsunami fade away. This ability was not working as intended when hitting enemies at hinting. Other typos always throw me off. This ability was not working as intended when hitting enemy gods at the direction Izanami had moved to. Visual effects now properly showed enemies. HP bar no longer shows. Persephone fixed an issue where passive meter would skip numbers. Scylla fixed an issue where certain skins would crash the game. Set fixed an issue where the Rise of Spawn achievement would not be earned. Scotty fixed an issue where Calder could fall through the floor if he was killed while under certain types of CC. Fixed an issue where Calder wouldn't jump with Scotty and they will jump together again. Oh boy. Sylvanas Verdant Growth. This ability can now be fired over walls as was intended. Well, I didn't encounter a problem of it not doing that, so I don't. Oja fixed an issue where basic attacks were not hitting enemy deployables in some cases. Fixed an issue where ultimate ability could move towers. Zeus fixed an issue where the detonate achievement could not be earned. Jean Kui fixed an issue where his ability 3 was not working. This god will be re-enabled when the Vigilant update releases. Can we get rid of the instant pre-fire on that ability also? Because he gets to use it as soon as the button is pressed, regardless of whether or not he gets CC'd before it actually hits. It's kind of stupid, and they've never fixed it. Nope. Project Olympus, full console mouse and keyboard support, whatever. Crossplay changes, whatever. The basic thing to know is that you can designate that if you're using keyboard and mouse, you can designate that you want to play with other players that are using a keyboard and mouse. So, takes away some of the unfairness with queuing against people that don't have keyboard and mouse when you don't. So there you go. Turing Adventure, Heimdall's Crossing, Fafnir's Wonderland is back, but where's Fafnir? The Bifrost is opened and Heimdall is taking over the show. Fight until you fall against waves of increasingly difficult PvE encounters. Relive the zany enemies of Yuletide past and discover new challenges. Do you have what it takes to survive Heimdall's Crossing? Fun. That was a fun adventure. Item balance. 1 item. Jade Emperor's Crown, decreased physical power reduction aura from 30 to 20. Because Jormungandr was getting too much mileage out of this item and it was being used a lot during professional matches. So toning that down, not as useful. I did see some people complaining that they're not nerfing Runic Shield, but it's been nerfed already once, so I don't think they're really interested in nerfing it again right now. God Bounce, Camazot's a little bit underpicked these days, not really seeing him, so his passive has had its lifesteal buff increased from 6 to 8% and increased the healing when he drinks his pools. Vampire Bats increased vampirism buff from 3 to 4%. Devour increased range from 30 units to 45 units, so more comparable to a Cerberus jump in the range. It's good. Ormingander immovable, and they are increasing the damage taken from 10 to 15% when his debuff is active when he's been hit by some form of displacement, since he cannot be displaced. They've increased this to make it feel a bit more, well, of course, rewarding for hitting your abilities on him, and then not as helpful to him for being able to completely avoid displacement like knockups and knockbacks. Because, you know, it's a little bit tough when there's a guy that can just completely ignore those things. So you should be punished for it more. Anyway, Kukulkan pick rate is up. Partial revert on whirlwind application time. Increased refresh / application time from 0.25 to 0.35 seconds. And decreased damage per tick from 10 to 50 to 9 to 45. It will still be better than his initial state before this buff was initially put in. But they just wanted to balance him out better because that buff made him a little bit too good. So pull that back, find that middle ground. Makes him a little less unfair. Alderaan decreased base power from 40 to 38. Basically, they didn't like how good his early game was being based on how good his late game could be. So they want him to be more balanced through the different phases so he can't be as dominant. Set increased cooldown from 7 seconds to 8 seconds on Skewer. Big. This is an important ability, does a lot of damage, has a slow, and they've seen him used in multiple roles, so increase that cooldown a bit. And then finally, Yemoja. We'll go ahead and read through this. Scottish is launched at quite a low balance point. Yes, it's true, even though we've seen a lot of funny things from this god right now. Yemoja is one of the lowest win rate gods across all game modes and skill levels. Through our usual process, we focus on gathering data and addressing quality of life concerns and bugs instead of quickly buffing underperforming launches. This has been our strategy all year, and it's led to very positive community feedback. However, now that we have enough data, we have decided the Goddess of Rivers really needs some changes. One of the primary dislikes about Yemoja was her build path. Her passive forced builds to be very constrained to 2 of her 3 bonus Omi are being shifted to be earned through level, while only 1 requires a mana item to be built. Another issue we noticed was that players were really making contact with her abilities. Now, I don't think this is a fair reason to buff her. I think people are just bad and need more time to practice, but her offensive abilities have strange shapes and scaling sizes, which makes them especially difficult to land, so both forms of ability 1 are seeing slight increases. Her healing was also lower than expected for a goddess designed to play that role, so this is being slightly increased as well. General, Yemoja will be banned on infinite mana match of the day modes, as well as King Arthur, because the way their abilities function made them extremely broken in these modes. Okay, here is Omi on her passive. Changed objectives to earn Omi from 300, 450, 600 mana in MP5 to bonus Omi 1 at reaching level 4, level 12, and then bonus Omi 3 for obtaining 300 mana / MP5 from items. So now you're not constrained to building 3 or 4 different mana items just to try to get the best effectiveness out of her kit. And bouncing bubble increase radius from 12 to 14. Makes it a little bit easier to hit those first 2 hits. Moonstrike, the same thing. Increase minimum minimum radius from 10 to 12. So you can hit that middle shot a little bit easier to get the stun, and then Mending Waters, increased healing from 20 to 100 up to 30 to 130. Now, I don't know why this was being done, considering this ability also has a shield on it. I don't think this buff was needed. I think they needed quality of life changes, and I guess help to players for landing the abilities, but I don't think the healing increase was needed. Anyway, that's going to do it for this update note, everybody. Hopefully, you guys will see a Heimdall video soon, whether it's jungle practice by myself or real gameplay. We'll see what we're able to do. With that, like and subscribe if you guys enjoyed this update notes review. Leave a comment down below if you want. And as always, check the helpful links down in the description, and I'll see you guys next time for some more Smite. Have a good one.